Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here, doing my little impressions video for the Resident Evil volume snippets. I'm doing volume 5, 6, and 7 for this one. This will be my second time doing this because initially I did one like weeks ago that I never ended up uploading for 5 and 6, and now everything's out. Like they've got 5 through 10 out now, so I wanted to split them up instead of kind of packing 5 through 10 all together because I'm sure I got a lot to say about them. But I'll kind of keep it condensed because I wanted to do this. I forgot to upload it, plus there was a bunch of extra little stuff I was looking for when I did my original version of the video. Also, of course, with me starting here at 5, if you want to check out my impressions for volumes 1 through 4, I got a link in the description for that. But starting off with volume 5, survival, really simple. Initially, it's just like, hey, here's the health thing. Of course, we have herbs. They go through, I got all the videos set up on my laptop, so I'm going to play them so I can see them. But it starts off really simple. It's just like, alright, we have the herbs, it's like combine, and it instantly brings up the thing. One of the things I wanted to know is that in the actual menu, items take up different amounts of space, which I thought was pretty cool, because one of the big things that seems to be happening with this Resident Evil is that not only is it going to be atmospherically like the old games, if that's even a word, but it's also going to have items and objectives like the old game as well. So like the items in here, the shotgun takes up 2 spaces, which is very reminiscent of some of the older games where you'll have bigger items. Like Resident Evil 2 I think is a great example, where they have like a submachine gun. It takes up 2 spaces. And Resident Evil 3 has stuff like that as well. And I believe Resident Evil 1 has that. I don't know if they actually have that for the shotgun, where the shotguns take up 2 spaces. But they started to add that later on, where it's really special items basically take up the normal amount of space that they actually would, and everything else, even some of the shotguns, would take up 1 square, and then you have special weapons to take up 2. So I thought that was cool. The shotgun takes up 2 squares. It's somewhat reminiscent, considering how they're doing it. It's almost like a combination of the old school style and like Resident Evil 4, just a little bit, because you only get like a certain amount of spaces. So I think it's actually closest to 5. I think 5 was exactly like that, which was sort of a combination of the old school style. Although I'm pretty sure you can move the items around, so that's why it's kind of like 4, but it's a very limited space, like 5 and the older games. So I thought that was cool to know. It also has some very interesting objectives on the side when they go to the items menu. It brings up the objectives on the left side of the screen, and it's like you have to get like 3 dog heads or something crazy like that to open the door to the yard. So I thought that was cool. It's like, alright, they're doing some really weird stuff with the puzzles. It's one of the simpler puzzles where it's like the puzzle isn't exactly getting to the next area, it's actually just finding these 3 dog heads, which it's hard to tell with this game if these dog heads are going to be like old school style where it's like, oh, find the dog heads, and they would be like statue heads of 3 different dogs, or if these are going to be like actual dog heads. Like, it's based on the demo and the footage I've seen, I'm like, I don't know if this is just going to be like, oh, the dog heads are 3 different statues. I kind of feel like it might be actual dead mutated dogs or something, because it's hard to tell with this, and I'm like, I don't know how dark they're going to go with it, or why it would need to be real dog heads. It's really hard to tell, but I'm like, I want to believe it's just old school style, and it's just like the 3 dog heads are just 3 different little like plaques, or they're almost like wall mounts made out of stone and stuff, and it's just 3 dog heads. But at the same time, based on what I've seen from this game, it's hard to say. It's hard to be 100% that it's just going to be some, a simple old school Resident Evil thing. It might be like some actual decapitated dog heads, which is nuts, but this one gets really crazy. So, I thought that was pretty cool. As it goes through and they actually combine the herb with whatever this item is, we don't actually get to see what the secondary item is that the herb gets combined with, but ultimately it ends up making first aid meds, which is different from the first aid spray. And what really caught my attention is actually the description for it, because it's like, oh, it regenerates cells and stuff like that. It's not just an actual first aid kit where it just heals you and stuff like that. But I thought that was cool. It's like, I don't know if that's going to actually play into the story as to how his family continues to survive, because as we've seen, they can kind of go through a lot of stuff, and that's, I believe, the next volume 6 is like the immortal one. So there's some real interesting stuff there, and this could easily just be like, hey, it's just the healing item for the game, that's just the description we gave it. But I was like, I feel like that could easily be a part of the game, and I feel like that's something Resident Evil's never really done, where the items that we find in the game actually play a part in the story. I think that would be really cool, because typically it's just like, well, here's an herb, you use it to heal yourself or to cure yourself of poison if it's a blue one, which I'm still hoping they bring back blue. That's what I was really hoping for in this one. I was like, man, I would love to see them just be like, yep, we got blue herbs, which would have to mean spiders are coming back because blue herbs are for poison, and spiders were the only thing that could poison you outside of like Resident Evil 3 where Nemesis infects you with the flat out, T virus. But I'm hoping we still get blue herbs, still nothing there. It's just the green herb. But I thought it was cool. I was like, that's really interesting. It's kind of weird because it's like, he just pours it on his hand and he's fine. But at the same time, based on the description, it's like it literally regenerates cells. It kind of works. Like, based on the description, it almost works that it's so simple where it's just like, oh, my health is really low. It kind of made me think of Far Cry, where it's like basically all the healing is just like simple stuff with the hands, and then it's like, boom, you're healed now. But I thought it was cool. It's like, alright, you get to see that they're damaged. Then, pour it over. It's like, boom, I'm healed because my cells regenerated. But, like I said, because of the description, it actually fits. So I thought that was pretty cool. We got to see, like, a little bit of a better glimpse at the little watch that's on the arm. And I think that's a simple way to do it. I assume that there's going to be a button where you're walking and you can just do like this and you just check it. Almost like Dead Rising a little bit, where you can check your watch for times. I feel like it'll be that way, where you just look at it, it's like, alright, this is what my health is, green, red, orange, possibly purple if they do decide to bring in the poison. But I thought that was cool. I think it's a fine way to do health, since, it's all first person. I'm assuming that's just another aspect of them being like, alright, this is another way for us not to show the characters, because you could only see the health of your character, at least in the older games, when you would go to the pause menu and it would always bring up a picture of whoever you were playing as. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out. I would assume at some point in this game, considering the storyline of it, where we have this guy Ethan looking for his sister, I would assume at some point we're going to see at least what she looks like. I don't know if they'll do, vice versa, where we see it from her perspective what he looks like as well. But I would assume at some point by the end of the game, we have to at least see what she looks like, because he's going to look for her. So it kind of has to be one or the other. We have to see one of these characters, I would assume, by the end of the game. But, for now, as we're actually playing it, that's a simple way to do it. I am curious how they're going to do, I believe the sister's name is Mia. So we have Ethan, who is the guy who, I think he's the only person that shows up in all these volume pieces. He has, the little wristwatch, but I'm curious what she's going to have. Because, like, I played the demo of, I think the Lantern demo, I got to play that in VR. And you play as Mia when she's being chased by the mother in the house. And she doesn't have any of that stuff. It's just like, that's just the chase sequence, so maybe that's how the game is going to play out entirely. I hope not, personally speaking. But we also have the part where when you're at the dinner table, that switches to Ethan. Like, that's the guy who's sitting at the dinner table. That's not the girl sitting at the dinner table. So I'm not sure how all that's going to play out as far as her health, or if it's going to be kind of split back and forth where she has the complete run sections where you can't fight and you have to hide, and he has the action stuff. But I would like to think that, considering these characters are supposed to be immortal, or pseudo-immortal, she'll get to fight as well, because that would kind of suck if it's like you jump back in the past and all you can do is run. Although that wouldn't be scary, so it could still work, but it would kind of suck if it's like, yeah, you get to do all the action stuff and still be scared here, but with her, you only get to be scared and you can't fight back or do anything whatsoever. It would be a weird back and forth sort of thing, as far as I'm concerned. But I like what they did with the health. Very simple, but I thought it was pretty cool. It's much better than, like, the Tic Tacs from Resident Evil 6. So I'm totally fine. It's like I said, with the description, it's a bit more realistic. Obviously, it's just been herbs. It's like they're just grinding up herbs in the middle of, a mansion type stuff. Like, all of it is video game logic, of course. So I'm fine with that. I think it looks cool. I like the fact that they have the objectives there, and I thought it was nice. So moving on to Volume 6, we have Immortal, which shows the father. And I love this one. This is probably one of my favorites. He has, like, this crazy weapon that it looks like a paint roller, but he put, like, spikes on it. I think that's exactly what he has. It's like a paint roller, but he put, like, spikes on it. And so one of the interesting things about this is that they have bleeding in this game, which I think is something that they brought from Resident Evil Revelations 2. Because that's not something we've had before. Like, they've had, like, the crazy danger mode, I guess. They kind of added that in Resident Evil 5, where it's like, basically you're about to die out and your partner has to help you. They have it in 6 as well, where you can actually get up yourself in 6 as long as you survive and you don't get, hit anymore. But in Revelations 2, they have like a very interesting progression for danger. Like, you can be wounded the normal way where your health just goes from like green to red, and then they have certain stuff where you can get like slime, or certain enemies explode and you have to like use disinfectant and stuff to like wipe off the character, which basically clears up the screen because you can't see. It's like muck all over the screen. And I don't know if they'll add those elements, but the bleeding thing is another part of that, where certain enemies, if they have like certain types of weapons, like they can stab you or something, it does different damage and you start to bleed and you gradually lose health. It's almost like being poisoned. You gradually lose health until you use like a bandage or something to stop the bleeding, and then you have to heal yourself from whatever point you stop the bleeding at. And I thought that was cool. I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense with this being first person. I think that's a good element to add from Revelations 2. I thought it was pretty cool. And it actually covers up the screen. It's very similar to Revelations 2 as well. And I like that. I was like, that's actually a cool little addition that I think makes a lot of sense. And I think it makes more sense, the Revelations 2 style, than it did for like 5 and 6, where it's like you're super wounded and then you just slow down and you have to wait for someone else to help you. And 6, I think they did it a little better, where it's like, alright, you're down, and then you just have to wait and hope you survive. And then this one is kind of, it's kind of the same thing, but it actually affects the screen. And, you might not get knocked down, because of course no one's going to be there to help you, but you're wounded. And, they show in this one, for 6, the character is moving slower. So they did bring that back from the old school Resident Evil, because that's definitely something they took out. I don't think that was even in 4, now that I think about it. Yeah, like, so even in there, they took it out. Like, once you get to danger, you still move fast. I don't know if you could run in 4 when you're in danger mode, and I think it's kind of the same for 5 and 6. I don't know if you can actually run in like those special cases, but if you're not like in that super dangerous mode and you're just wounded, it's like whatever, no big deal. So it could kind of be that same thing where you can still run even if you're normally wounded, but if you go to like the bleeding state, you slow down. But slower movement I thought was cool. It's very old school style. Another big thing appears to be the quick turn, which I really like, and that's very old school Resident Evil style, where and this could be something, I'm sure it's like an auto aim thing, you can turn that off, but that's something they added in Resident Evil 3, where enemies automatically get targeted, and you can do that in 3. They can be behind you, and all you have to do is aim the gun, and Jill would instantly like turn her all the way around, and she would aim at the enemy. So I thought that was cool when I saw that. I was like, oh, that's a cool little thing to bring back. I'm sure it's something you can turn off, but I thought that was cool. I'm sure they have like the the 180 turn, which was added in Resident Evil 3 as well, just to the quick turn so you could actually escape. I thought that was cool, so I enjoyed that. Of course, the father getting up in general, that's just cool. It's, like I think everyone was saying this for a long time, even before this came out, but serious Nemesis vibes. We fight him, we take him down, he's down for a little bit, and then he gets up and he's basically like, oh, you messed up now, so he gets pissed off. So I like that. I'm excited to see how they do this, how in the world we're supposed to defeat this character. I don't know if he's going to go through kind of the typical Resident Evil thing. He goes through the giant mutation, and then, that's how we end up getting to defeat him. But I like that. I thought that was pretty cool. And then move on to Volume 7, which super simple for Volume 7. It's seriously just looking at a container. But I think a lot of people may have missed why that was important, because as you inspect the container, I thought it was going to be real old school style, where it's like, oh, this thing was on the bottom or something. But it's actually way more detailed than that, which I thought was amazing, because it's something they've never had in a Resident Evil game. And that is, when you inspect something, like they have like basically this metal container, and so they're moving it around, and you hear like this clanking noise, and it's because there's something inside the box. And I was like, that's really cool. That's a very simple thing, and I assume at some point it'll be much more relevant than like, oh, here's a metal case and there's something in it. At some point it'll be like, here's a book, and you slide it, and it's like, how did I just hear something move inside of a book? And then you realize that you can like open the spine of the book and there's a key in there, or there's like a coin in like the spine of a book or something. So I'm sure it'll have much more relevance compared to, oh, I picked up a metal box and I heard something inside the metal box. That was just really simple, but the point of it was to show we're bringing back inspections for items, and they've added a new level to it. It's not just, oh, look at this seems weird, it looks like something fits in here, or this looks like a button, which, if I remember right, they had that in the original Resident Evil 1. I know they have it in the remake, but I'm pretty sure they had that in the original Resident Evil 1, where you'd have to inspect certain things. And I think one of the keys is like that, where it's like you get it and it's just a cube or like a rectangle, and then you inspect it and it's like, this looks like a button, and it'll ask if you want to press it, and you hit yes, and the rest of the key pulls out. So they're bringing that back, and they're adding a new level to it with sound. And I love that, because they haven't had inspections for a super long time in these games, or examining items, because you could look at stuff, and they took it out. I'm pretty sure they took it out in 4 where it actually had any sort of relevance to it. It was just like, oh, you could look at it was basically like the design showcase. It was like you can inspect items and stuff, but nothing really mattered. It was just like you could look at the items and see the detail and design they put into the weapons. But none of them, from what I can remember, at least about 4, there wasn't a single item in that game where you had to inspect it. Like, you can inspect it and it would be like, I think this goes to this, or it would be like, I think I can use this for this. But it would be obvious stuff like it's not Sadler, or it may have been Sadler, but the big guy that dies and you take like the prosthetic eye out, it's obvious what that's used for. And it's like, it basically tells you like, oh, I think I can use this, like it's a fake eye, I could probably use it for whatever. So it's little stuff like that. It wasn't like, oh, I found this inside of this. They kind of got rid of that when 4 came out. So I'm super happy to see that they brought that back. I thought that was really cool. And like I said, adding the element of sound to it adds a whole new level to the inspection of items, which is really great. So I'm excited to see them really utilize that. I hope they do a thing with the book where it's like something's in the spine of the book or something like that. But that's really cool. They have it with normal items. I'm sure, just like all the other stuff, you can do this even in the demo. You can, just look at some of the items in the game. But I thought that was cool. I was like, I like that. They added sound to it. They already had the visual stuff, even from like the really old games, where it's just like, oh, this is different than this side, and I can take this out, or I can open it up, or whatever. So they've already had that for a long time, and now I'm happy that they're bringing it back. It's just another step towards that old school style that I really love for the old Resident Evil games. So really happy about that. I like all 3 of these videos. I think the Immortal one may have been my favorite, just because it had the cool Nemesis vibe. Plus, it showed like it showed a new element to how health was going to work. It kind of combined with the other one with the green herb. So I really liked all 3 of these. Of course, I definitely want to know what you guys thought about these volumes. We have herbs coming back into play. We have a new type of first aid. Now it's not first aid spray, it's the first aid meds. I want to know if you guys think that will have some sort of relevance to the storyline, because like I said, that would be a new element to Resident Evil, where one of the items you use actually plays into the world of the story. Because typically it's just like, like I said, it's just like, oh yeah, we combine green herbs or whatever. It's never actually talked about or anything. It's just, you have first aid spray, you have meds, blue, red, green, and then eventually yellow for the current games. So I would love to know what you guys think about that. I think it's interesting. I like, how they have the first person perspective with the basically it's like the little the little Apple iWatch, which I just find kind of funny. But I thought that was cool, and it's a simple way to do it. Shows your health. I really hope that in these next couple of videos, I haven't watched all of them yet. I still haven't watched like the last 2 because I wanted to save them right before I did my next review. But I'm excited for what's coming for these last 3. I know there's a character in number 10, and I don't know if that's going to be a brand new character, because it's said it's like an aunt. So I don't know if this is going to be someone brand new that we haven't seen yet, or what the deal is, but I'm super excited for it. But I want to know what you guys thought about these 3 volumes. If there's anything that I may have missed, any like connections to old games, or connections to, or predictions that you guys have based on what we saw from these 3 little snippets. I definitely want to know what you guys think, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about these volumes, your least favorite parts of these, what you wish you were seeing, what you did see that you liked, what you did see that you may not have liked. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, everything I've seen, I've enjoyed. It's been little stuff. If there's anything I haven't liked, it's the fact that it's just really little stuff, like, oh, you healed, but there's a lot in that. There's the one with the saving, that's probably the least interesting one, because it's like, okay, they've moved on, they moved on from ink ribbons a long time ago, but at least we have save points now, which makes me think they're going to go more Resident Evil 4 style, where you have checkpoints for sure, but you still have to save it in order to be at this point in the game, which I love that idea, because they got rid of that in 5, and it's just like, yeah, you're just here. You're either here or you're not here, and that's all there is to it. And you don't have to save yourself. You just save automatically, pretty much. So I like that idea, but want to know what you guys thought about these, and like I said, what you really liked about them. If there's anything I missed, I definitely want to hear from you guys. But I want to know what you think about these couple of snippets, what you want to see from the other volumes if you haven't checked them out already, what you're hoping to see, what your predictions are, and what you hope to see. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.